We will call to order this January 26th regular meeting of the Lake County Planning Commission. Roll call. Heather Lind
Here.
is remote today. Steve Stevens.
Here.
Jason Marufo is absent. David Urich.
Here.
And Ryan Hill. And Joey Edwards here. Roll call for Lake County Planning Commissioners. Commissioner Tharp is absent. Commissioner Lee is absent. Commissioner Bullock.
Present.
Thank you. Any changes or additions to the agenda today?
We don't have any for you. We had much action. So I think we're gonna go ahead and just let our presentation be our update, so.
Okay, very good.
I have that, I do have that in the presentation, the ready one. Yeah, I got it in the presentation. It's okay.
All right, and a little housekeeping, approval of minutes for the January 12th meeting. Has anyone had a chance to review or have any changes to make?
I've reviewed, I don't have any minutes.
If none, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from January
12th.
12th.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes passes. Updates from staff.
So I think the only update that we have, and I'll talk about a little bit in our slide deck too, is that Melissa and I will be attending the Building Better Places workshop February 9th, or we'll be leaving on the 9th to be there for the 10th. So that's a regular meeting date, and so we're going to ask if we can forego our first meeting, regular meeting in February, and then just agree to meet on a regular time for our second meeting in February. We don't obviously have any land use files to be heard, and so we think this will be a really good use of our time to attend the workshop. So I think that's the only update that we have, and then everything else will be in the slides.
Sounds great. I wanted to bring up a question and I didn't do that to change the agenda. I'll ask it now and you can tell me when's an appropriate time.
Okay.
And I don't even know if this is the appropriate place, but I've had a couple of people ask who they would talk to at the county to get approval for a memorial for current events. Who would that go through to find a safe place to do something like that that would be approved by the county?
So I would send those requests to the county manager's office and that would be the appropriate place, and then she can determine who staff she wants to kind of tag in to help
Gotcha.
support that.
Okay.
And I would send those to Candace.
Sounds good, thank you.
You bet.
All right, any old business to attend to? If we have no old business, we'll move straight into new business.
Very good. Great. Okay, so this evening, as we typically do in January, we like to start the year off with sharing with you what our priorities look like, what the department is engaged in. And so as we are working through our One Community project, we are currently in February finalizing our goals and strategies and actions in all of the different topical areas of the comp plan with the action teams. And we're hoping to have a draft of the comprehensive plan probably early part of March, so we can start that review process. And with the hope of looking for a presentation for adoption of the plan somewhere in May or June. These are tentative dates at this point, but some good placeholders. And then, of course, once we have the plan adopted, we'll be working into implementation from adoption through the end of the year. Really exciting that this is not only our first ever multi-jurisdictional plan, but our last comprehensive plan did not have a solid implementation plan. And so what you're gonna see with this iteration is a timeline, looking based on kind of the priority of the action, who will be responsible for it, and also some funding opportunities to support it. So I'm really excited that this iteration will be really come with a solid implementation plan. And so what I just shared with you for February 9th meeting is that we'll be attending the Building Better Places workshop again. This time it is focused on economic development. So that will be happening in February. Go ahead to the next slide. And some of the professional development that the department will be engaged in March, members of the building department and code enforcement will be headed to the Colorado ICC conference. And then Jackie, Melissa, and I will be following the ICC conference. It's typically always that same week. The end of the week, we'll be attending the Rocky Mountain Land Use Institute at DU. And then in October, planning staff will be headed to the American Planning Association Colorado Conference. 2026 is quite the year for code adoptions. We will be starting the year off with House Bill 25-142, which calls for the adoption, or we're choosing to adopt the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. We've already started the groundwork with Leadville Lake County Fire Rescue as well as the Board of Review. We are also looking at updating the energy code and our I-codes with the commercial code, the residential code, mechanical, fuel gas, existing building, fire, and then the plumbing and mechanical attack with the state codes. And it is also, there's a state update on OWTS or septic regulations. So this is really taking up a good bulk of our capacity for the first quarter of the year. Next slide. Housing at 10-2, really exciting project as we're starting to see homes being set. The homes on 6th Street in January, they've been working on getting those electric service lines done, building decks, and dealing with the punch list items. We're looking at marketing the homes in February and looking to move into closing on the homes and new owners in March. On 3rd Street, those modular sets are going to start happening now through March. Again, with the site-built elements coming online in that time frame as well, and dealing with, any of the transportation updates, results of fixes that have to be done. So we always end up with punch list items. Depending on the moratorium and when we can put in those deep utilities, that'll be sometime in May or June for 3rd Street. And then once we've gotten that accomplished, we'll start marketing the homes and hoping for sales contracts in June and July. Next slide. Housing has quite a bit going on, and so we applied for a DOLA grant in December. For our housing action plan, we're required to have one completed by 2028, so we are well ahead of schedule here. We're hoping to be awarded the grant, and if we are, then we'll be moving into a professional service agreement in March with Root Policy. And then Root Policy would start that scope of work to create the housing action plan and update our housing needs assessment. Beginning in April, they kind of really want to wait until we get finished up with the One Community project, or that we're in draft form of that. A lot of the things that they will do for the Housing Action Plan. We've really vetted and we've done a lot of good foundational work with One Community Project. So that'll take us through the end of the year. We continue to manage and perform the property management on the county rental assets on Elm Street. And so that property management goes the whole year through from January through December. We've been really focused on deferred maintenance of the assets. In 2025, we did full roof replacements, and in 2026, we're concentrating on heating upgrades. We've been working on getting our NEPA and SHPO approvals finalized so that we can get to the award funding of the $850,000 of congressional spending that we've been allocated. So we're hoping to get those through HUD and finalized. We'll be continuing to do grant administration. This grant administration supports all of the housing work that we're doing. Because we passed the expedited review code amendment before the end of the year, we realized an additional $50,000 to apply towards the housing work, and we've asked for an extension of this grant until August of 27. Jackie is currently participating in the DU Affordable Housing Program, and that will continue now and through June. And this is a group of housing cohorts really focused on affordable housing, different representatives from different jurisdiction, from DOLA, affordable housing development, and funding resources. And they're really tackling and looking at what are the challenges surrounding implementing housing initiatives and actually building affordable housing, creating solutions, and really sharing funding opportunities and knowledge.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Going back to property management, who
Yeah.
is responsible for the asset management plan for the county?
So the asset management plan is something that has currently been working on through the county manager's office with facilities.
Okay.
So it is something that is a work in progress.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, this is just one of numerous assets the county holds. But that is something
That
that
goes through
they've
facilities.
created. They've created a separate department for facilities. And so that is now having a lot of energy and resource being put into it to create a better asset management plan.
Who's the head of the facilities department? Do you know?
Stewart, he used to be the deputy director in public works.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
You bet. Next slide. So talking about community building, our community planning and development operations and systems, we are very excited that we are currently advertising for another planner in the department, and we're really hopeful that we'll be able to recruit and onboard someone by the end of February. We've also been approved through the budget for a building professional, which we're very excited to add that additional capacity within the department. And we'll start advertising that position in February with the hopes of recruiting and onboarding sometime in March. E-permitting is something the department has set as a goal for some time. When I took over the directorship of the department in 2022, I identified this as something that was really needed to increase efficiencies. And so we're really hoping that in 2026, we are successful with onboarding. Right now, we're working with Cloud Permit. We've overcome some mapping issues, we hope, to make the software a tool that we're going to be able to use. So we're really excited that we've made significant progress. This will help in pretty much all of the disciplines within the office, within the department. So building permitting will become an e-permitting platform. Planning, code enforcement, septic permitting will also all benefit from this increased efficiency. So just to give you an idea, of course, we are always concentrated on our core essential services, and just to give you an idea of what that looks like production-wise on an annual basis, we are typically in an annual year managing about 60 land use files. Combined between the city and the county, we're looking at about 150 building permits. In addition to that, we're somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 ancillary permits, which look like contractor registration, special event permitting, over-the-counter permits for plumbing, mechanical, solar, roofing. And then our code enforcement is got a caseload of about an average of 70 enforcement files. In 2026, we're excited to have the support of the county attorney's office, and we are currently working into taking some of these files into further enforcement into district court. So we're appreciative that we feel like we're going to make some hopefully significant progress on enforcement in 2026. Next slide. So as we do every year, we have been creating a parking lot of code amendments that we think are important for revision in the code. And so part of what we'll be looking at in the implementation of the comprehensive plan will be actions that will result in the need for updates to our code. For example, currently our manufactured home parks are all zoned business, and we're really wanting to think about zoning that would preserve these communities with the ability to improve as well as protect them as they are areas of having our naturally deeply affordable housing within our community. So that's just an example. There's a lot of different actions that will come out of the comp plan that will result in areas that we will be looking at updating our development code and zoning code. Minor subdivision, we currently don't have anything in the development or in our subdivision regulations that allow us to subdivide duplexes or attached townhomes. So this is a strategy, of course, that's being used for affordability. So the 10-2 project, all of those units are duplexes, and they will be further subdivided and then sold as individual housing units. So the county code, the city code has the ability to go ahead and subdivide those. The county code does not. And you may remember Timber Ranch subdivision is an area that they're going to need this tool in order to subdivide attached dwelling units. So this is an area that we're looking to update in our code. CUP amendment, currently there is no way to amend a conditional use permit. If you have an existing permit and you want to make changes to it, there's no administrative process to do such. And so what we're suggesting is there should be a way to make simple amendments to your conditional use permit that doesn't require going back through a public hearing process. Of course, recognizing that when you're making substantial changes to a conditional use permit, of course, it would be appropriate to come back and go through the process. But more often, we are seeing that there are slight amendments that could be really done more efficiently through an administrative process. ADUs, as you realize, those come to you as conditional use permits on anything that occur on less than an acre. And so we believe those should be used by right as long as they meet the standards that are required in the code. So we'd be looking to change those to use by right versus a conditional use permit. Affordable housing, sketch and preliminary approvals. So subdivisions and PUDs that have been granted approvals of a sketch or preliminary plan, those approvals are good for 1 year. A developer or applicant can come in and ask for an extension of 1 additional year in our code right now. What we're finding is often in subdivisions that have affordability, so we'd be looking at 50% or more affordability roughly, it takes a lot of work to, some of the items that are lingering that might make these plans go beyond that year or 2 year point is creating the capital stack. A lot of times that has to be done by grants, which have, a big lift to them. So we'd like to consider when we have these sketch or preliminary approvals that may be lapsed, but nothing substantially has changed in the design. Is it putting too much burden to have to go back through a review process on the same sketch plan, just to be able to extend it? So we want to consider, how do we make those approvals have maybe a longer term to them? Height definition, talked about this a little bit. We think this is just something we can tag on to something that we're doing. Currently, the definition is the average of the natural occurring grade prior to construction. We'd like something that's a little bit easier to determine as well as enforce. So we think that might be a tag on somewhere. And then we're starting to see the presence, or at least a trend of more mobile businesses not being brick and mortar. And so how do we look at these as uses? Where should they be allowed? How should they be zoned? Should they be done through temporary use permits? Should there be something addressing them in the zoning code? So all of these, are code amendments that we would like to see addressed and brought to you this year. The ones that I think that we definitely want to prioritize over others are anything that supports our affordable housing goals and implementation of the comprehensive plan. So we would hope we would get through all of them, but if we had to choose, that would be how we would prioritize them. And then we are going this evening in a little bit to talk about a proposal for a 6-month temporary moratorium. The staff report that I furnished for the meeting about lodging types and events. And so I'll wait until we get to that slide deck to just talk about those. So here's a Gantt chart that just gives you an idea of what our year looks like in CPD. So these are all the priorities that we just talked about. The only thing that isn't listed on this, it's kind of hard to see, but maybe you can see it, is housing. Those aren't listed on here, but it just gives you an idea of what our year looks like. You can see that the first quarter and a half of the year is very busy. We've got a lot of projects going. And so you will see that we've also kind of intentionally put the moratorium work into what we're going to talk about in a little bit, a very described work plan, because of just the amount of work that the department has this year. Any questions about any of the priorities before I keep going? Okay. Go to the next slide. This is the comprehensive plan Gantt chart, which just shows, it kind of flows from the bottom up. But we've got the action teams completing their work, our goals and strategies getting done, the draft review, then adoption, and then implementation. Just showing it through a year view. And then our housing priorities. So at the top, we've got just that DU program, the ongoing grant administration, working through our award of the $850,000 of congressional dollar that we were awarded, the property management that encompasses the year long, the big scope of work for the department on the housing side is certainly the 10-2 project and then the housing action plan. So take just a quick second before we go right into the temporary moratorium and just see if there's any discussion, thoughts, questions.
Things we might be missing.
Things we might be missing, things that have been on your mind that you're wondering, when are we ever gonna get around to that? Feedback, inputs.
There's a lot to get around to. It would be nice to have an update from Jackie at some point on where housing is and what next steps are for some of these.
Great.
2 of these programs are getting to fruition. We've got the separate project over in the rail yards, which is still trying to come online.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to talk to her to get an idea of where exactly we are and what we're looking forward to doing next.
That sounds great.
That would be nice. Just, it's hard to keep a handle on it, so it'd be nice to hear from her on that.
Absolutely. I'm wondering in that same invitation to Jackie, if you might also like to hear from the Regional Housing Authority, from Becky Longberg.
That'd be great.
You know, cause she kind of spans, over all projects, so you just kind of have a community-wide
Well,
perspective as
if
well.
those two could speak, that would really give us a nice update on affordable housing.
I think that'd be great, yeah,
That'd be nice.
great suggestion. Anything else, anything from the commissioners, anything we're missing, anything that you want more clarification while we're working on? Okay, all right, well, then without further ado, let's start talking about our proposal for a temporary moratorium. So we are asking for a 6-month temporary moratorium that, depended on your decision this evening to move this forward or not, we would be looking roughly at February through August. We're talking specifically about guest camps, vacation lodges, private resorts, guest ranches, RV parks and campgrounds, special event facilities, major entertainment venues or events, outdoors and indoors. So just to give you a summary of, you know, what are the key issues that brought us to this recommendation and suggestion, and it's really that we have an outdated code. Our code really does not provide us with uses that address tiny homes, glamping, different types of housing units, different types of camping, different types of, and it doesn't really distinguish either between maybe what is appropriate in the backcountry versus other zone districts. We're identifying that there's risk to and from infrastructure. We believe that public safety is something that we continue to feel that our standards could be more supportive of. And this is really resulting in inconsistent review outcomes. So we really want to be able to say that we're always applying the code consistently to all applicants. And with the current existing code, we're finding that difficult to do. Yes.
Just very quickly to clarify, how many pending applications are there? I'm aware of one, but are there other pending applications for this as well that would be outside of the moratorium?
Correct. So anything that is pending, this moratorium would not be subject to.
All right, so we're
They
not
would
holding
not.
up anything that's currently in the process.
That's correct.
Do we have an idea of how many applications that includes?
I believe we have 4. So we have a RV type campground. We've got we've got,
Group camp.
how many group camps do we have? 2 group camps. And then the outdoor camping addition. Does that include that one?
Well, I think we have 2, possibly 3,
Okay.
that are gonna be within process, so they won't be affected, so.
So 3 that will continue through the process separate from the moratorium.
Correct.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So, yes, very good question. So some of the areas that we're really gonna focus on as we look at this. So we're gonna start off with a peer review of other communities that are similar to ours and look at how they're handling this. You know, it's always a best practice to create that matrix of a comparison to see, you know, how other communities are managing this. We really want to dive in and evaluate infrastructure and what should be the standards around that, and what are adequate facilities to support these different types of uses. We've already talked to you a little bit about doing site-specific risk and hazard review. We really think that is a critical part of evaluating applications. And then we want to make sure that we're having more consistent emergency management standards so that we are straight across the board asking for the same management plans. And we want to look at what is the cumulative effect of commercial use in the backcountry. As we created backcountry, we were very conservative about what we wanted to allow on a commercial basis. And we're starting to see a real uptick in interest around commercial use in the backcountry. And so we want to make sure that we are still in line with the intent of the backcountry and that we have done enough to protect both public safety and environmental safety in the backcountry. So we're hoping that this will create more of effective code, more transparent standards, the ability for applicants to navigate the code more easily, and that we're really doing smart growth responsibly, and that the community and the environment has the adequate protections that they need.
Would this also include looking back at previous applicants and the things that happened during those?
Not necessarily. We don't really take a look back. I mean, those entitlements run with land and those decisions are made.
Well, I'm not saying questioning decisions, just difficulties that were encountered.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I think that's really, actually, thank you for clarifying that. I think that is actually what's really in part informing this, is that, you know, as we are planning, staff is navigating this as well as applicants, we're finding it difficult. And so it really is those experiences that are driving the need for this work. Oh, absolutely. So again, we're just gonna be looking at what are the emerging trends and models. We'll do that through peer review as well as some independent investigation. We really wanna close those regulatory gaps. Where do we not have oversight to support different types of programming, and where should we and where can we and where are we not able to? Of course, we're always focusing on making sure that we have a code that really is promoting health, safety, and welfare. And we want to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure standards. You know, there's a lot of different types of way to manage, or there's several different types of ways to manage water, sewer, and power. And, you know, what is most appropriate in all these different uses. And then just make sure that, again, like we talked about, we've got a transparent process for the public as well as for decision-making and for staff. So it's very important when you're proposing a moratorium to also include that we have a solid work plan to support what we're proposing to do. We want to put every effort into making this a 6-month scope of work. And so in month one, the first month, we'll be looking at really setting up that foundational framework. And so that'll be looking to if the Planning Commission tonight supports staff's recommendation, that would be taking the resolution to the board for consideration, and then creating a plan for how are we going to engage with the public. Their input will be very important to this process, and then really looking at how and who do we need to help support us through this work. We'll design the research and assignment framework between the members of the planning department and how we're going to initiate that work. And so in the first month, we'd be creating and passing the resolution, creating a interpretive piece of communication for the community of why we're doing this, and providing more information, updating our website, having a way that the public can get information quickly and easily, and then just creating the overall framework of the project. In month 2, we'll start what we were talking about with the peer review. And so we'll be looking for like communities as far as being rural, close to resort or tourism-based, mountain communities. What are they doing with their regulations? How do they look at density and performance standards? How do they define and do the zoning classifications? And really this creates a matrix, so we can do an analysis of comparative communities, and then helps us with best practices.
You're gonna limit that to Colorado?
Yes, we do. We already have a few that we're thinking of, Chaffee, Summit, Gilpin,
Yeah, our
Teller.
neighbors are sort of the best.
Yeah, that
because
really
they're
is.
most similar in environment and really politically, so.
yeah, it gets more difficult, it gets more diluted, I
Yeah,
guess.
you wouldn't wanna go to East Texas with this.
Why not, yeah, it may take us more than 6 months.
They'd just stare at you.
So, okay. Month 3, then we're gonna really focus more on infrastructure. So we really wanna be looking at water and sewer, utilities, access, emergency egress. And so we really want to have that solid, this is one area of the code that I think needs a lot of work, that doesn't really articulate well. We also wanna make sure that we've aligned with other policies, our OWTS regulations, public health, CDPHE. So we wanna make sure that we really have total alignment to straight across the board, and make sure that our standards reflect that.
Okay, just a quick question.
Yes.
When I first saw this, I was a little concerned because it seemed like we were specifically trying to address specific applications. And kind of we are, we shouldn't be.
Right.
And I want to make sure we're staying broad enough that we can adopt things that we haven't even thought of, new development type things that might come up in the future. So I mean, you know, as we develop our requirements around these, you know, we shouldn't be too design specific around, in my opinion, we shouldn't be too design specific around each type of application, like, RVs, housing.
No, it's really the
Glamping.
standards for each one.
Yeah, I mean, it's careful not to over-design, because then you're gonna limit the ability for people to come in and do any of it.
Right, but I think there's absolutely 100% right. Wherever we can create, where we don't have to get so prescriptive that we have the unintended consequence of limiting growth. There are some areas, particularly around water and wastewater, where, you know, there are CDPHE requirements or best practices or local regulations. So absolutely, and we are looking at this countywide, even though there have been instances that kind of inform the need for this work. This is we want this to be able to be broadly applied, and we, you know, one of an unintended consequence would be creating a code that is so prescriptive that we've limited development
That's kind of where-
unnecessarily.
That's kind of where I'm headed with it. It's like, we ought to be addressing our minimum requirements for the county that we need to address comprehensive plan concerns, obviously department concerns like health and human services, fire, hospitals, emergency services. But we gotta be careful not to define requirements that are too specific to the application that we're addressing, like glamping. You know, we can't, here's how you have to do power, here's how you have to do water, here's how
Well,
you have to do.
They were very, very careful when they were doing the backcountry plan, and even that, we've seen changes in technology and changes in different things that have made it, so there are things we need to update already, so yeah, I would imagine we would carry that forward with this. Even trying to be as careful as we can, things move forward pretty quick.
Absolutely, absolutely, but
But the
that's,
basics of safety and access, those things should be pretty easy to define.
right. No, but really great feedback, and agreed, and there will be, as you will see as we get into kind of the project team, you know, we will be bringing this back, to you for direction, for refinement, as we go through it. So, you know, this is just the, where we'll be gathering this information and then bringing it back for refinement.
And I guess I brought it up for my background in specification development for aerospace applications, and we got into this thing where we started to get too prescriptive around specific applications, specific development needs, around a specific type of missile or a specific type of radar system. And we needed to get back to where we were doing it based on what we call performance-based specifications, performance-based requirements, meaning if your system can meet these basic overall requirements that we need as a county, you know, to meet, you know, whatever emergency service resources, whatever environmental impacts, we shouldn't be so prescriptive that we're trying to tell you how to do your job. And it's just, want to be careful you don't have a set of requirements around glamping and one around RVs, and, you know, we don't get that prescriptive when we start doing this, is all I'm saying.
Sure. No, I think that's great feedback, and, you know, it'll be helpful to have, that perspective as we work on the refinement. So thank you for, that. I think that'll be, really great perspective. So, kind of talking some about what you just said, that months 4 and 5 will be leaning into that site-specific review, and risk, safety and the backcountry policy. So, you know, around identifying hazards and wildfire and how do we mitigate that. So more of a mitigation plan, more of what kind of review standards should help us identify environmental impact. Considering what are the criteria over critical areas like wetlands and floodplain and wildfire or wildlife areas. And again, being able to look at those site-by-site constraints of what is occurring on this particular property. So I think, like you said, so that we can be nimble enough to look at it on a site-specific basis. Although having consistent emergency management planning, we identify would be a strength, and then doing that analysis on the backcountry, looking at that cumulative effect of what does it mean to allow these commercial uses, and what will that mean moving forward as we look at how many parcels are zoned backcountry, and what could that impact look like? And are we still preserving that backcountry zoning intent? So basically those would be all result in positive outcomes of this part of the work plan. And then we move into that final 5 to 6 month part of the plan. And this is where we really want to make sure that by this time we have gained enough public input and we've heard from the public on the work, what's important and what needs to be included. And we have created draft amendments that are out to the public and that we can take comment in. And we work closely with the county attorney's office on legal review. And then we start prepping for the public hearing. And then we work on, of course, one of the other things that staff will be working on is the actual implementation, putting these into code and putting them into practice. So we'll finish up the moratorium work with the creation of these definitions and use categories, and really what are those standards around infrastructures and facilities, and the consistency on the emergency management standards. We've reviewed the backcountry. We have a better plan of how we're going to move forward with commercial use, and we have effective code updates and amendments. So the project management team, in order to get this work done, we would be the leadership of the project. We'll be leaning in with the county attorney for legal oversight. We'll be coming to the planning commission and the board for policy direction to make sure that we're refining and that we're making edits as need or adjusting as we need to. We identify immediately some of these departments that we're going to need to coordinate with, but there will certainly be others that we just haven't identified yet, but we're, working closely with public health. We already have started conversations with public health and some brief conversations with emergency management. We work closely with CDPHE, Public Works, the Soils Conservation District. They are a great partner in helping us with this type of work, our Water and Natural Resource Department, and others. And then, of course, we'll make sure that our project team includes the public input part as well. And that concludes my presentation. So, love to take questions, thoughts that you may have tonight. If we'll be waiting to see if the planning commission feels as though they are ready to make a motion to move the project forward. as far as the moratorium, or if you would like to take additional time, or you need more information from staff before you make a decision on whether or not you would like to support this.
I really appreciated in your report, you talked about cumulative effect, and you touched on it. Can you expand on that a little more? How could that be integrated into the code?
Well, so what I think that we're thinking is group camps in the backcountry, perhaps there should be, maybe backcountry group camps are something that need to be considered, because I think that what we wanna do is think about how many parcels, privately owned parcels are in the backcountry. And we're starting to see an increase in the desire for these uses. And so I think the cumulative effect of what we're trying to consider and measure is how many of these parcels exist. So if they can be conditionally allowed and they have limited access, and what is the strain on resources? So I think when we look at that total effect, we're looking at what is the danger to the environment, what is the danger to public health and safety, what is the impact on county resources if we continue
What is the impact on
to
other
see-
landowners? Yeah.
and the impact to the harmony to adjacent properties, and the intent of the backcountry. You know, the intent of the backcountry, when you read the definition of it, is meant to, I'm happy to read it too if you want, but generally, you know, is more of a conservation, preservation-minded district. And so are we in harmony with the intent of the zone district if we continue to have this use? And if we do, then should we be mitigating those impacts a little differently than we do? So should we continue to allow it? Should it look a little different for commercial use in the backcountry than a group camp somewhere else, or even if it's still
It's gonna
group
be
camp?
important to delineate, for sure.
I think that's gonna open up all kinds of questions and conflict.
Well, and it's,
Because
we've already had to deal with it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that happened on a recent application. And yeah, the impact to adjacent landowners that have a preconceived notion of what our backcountry plan was supposed to do is gonna be very important moving forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it might be something like a secondary moratorium like we did over in West Park for ADUs, or for short-term rentals, excuse me.
Oh, the
I don't
overlay.
know that there's a way to do that necessarily, but that's what we're gonna have to consider.
Yeah, the impacts are, you know, different in the backcountry versus in some of our other zone districts. And so really wanting to think, what is that effect of continuing to allow them in the manner that they've been allowed? And should that look differently? And if so, how?
Yeah, definitely one aspect that'll have to be addressed, and it's gonna require a lot of conversation.
Presumably not every private property in backcountry we would expect to be developed.
Presumably, but what happens if you get a you know, a hotspot, a
Right,
very
yeah.
heavy density in one specific area, then maybe that overlay plan is what we come into to try to moderate it, or not mitigate it, but moderate it at least. But yeah, that's one of the concerns that led to this.
Well, it seems like hotspots are almost bound to happen because they're based on access for one thing, and so where there's better access, that means there's gonna be more.
Yeah, two things, better access for one, and then, you know, individuals that own multiple parcels that are adjacent can lead to a hotspot as well, so yeah.
Good luck.
No, it's gonna be, you know, a lively bit of work, for
Yeah.
sure. But we think that it's important work, because getting ahead of that before we have, you know, a situation that has grown to a point of enforcement or, you know, an impact that we can't mitigate.
Yeah, we had a few last year, we have several this year, next year that means a dozen, year after that it means 24, so getting ahead of it would be nice. It would be nice to try to find a way to minimize our time frame on this, I mean, truly limit it to a 6-month time. So I, for one, would be one to move the motion forward now, just so that we don't drag it out.
I would as well.
Thank you, Heather.
Is that a motion?
Would entertain a motion for or against moving this forward to consideration by the VOCC.
Do you have the script handy?
What is it? We have the.
There's a, it's not a motion, it's just a
Oh, okay.
That top
a
section.
draft of the moratorium.
Yeah, there was,
Oh, that's
there was a motion
resolution.
in the
I didn't
staff
see-
report. There was
was
one
there?
in the
Okay.
staff
I can look it up.
if you. It's
I
fine.
was thinking it was the
That's for
top
the
of the
VOCC.
resident that had
Only other comment I have, which kind of somewhat along the lines of what I was saying before, is we gotta watch for requirements creep. And what I mean by that, or creep or growth. If we already have requirements that adequately address certain things we're concerned about with these new types of applications, we gotta watch replication. Don't try to replicate, don't try to reinvent the wheel. We minimize as much as we can of, we should be just addressing the requirements that are, or the gaps. Not trying to instill a bunch of stuff that we've already got written somewhere else, whether it be a comprehensive plan, whether it be in the code, that just,
Absolutely. I think that that's great advice, and I think one thing that we're hoping to do is be consistent too. Some of these places in the code, I think that we have, found ways, we found good language around, and standards to address some of this, but it's not consistent throughout all of the uses.
And
So
that's what
some-
will hang us, is not being consistent.
Right, so I think
I might have to
that'll be
refresh
really
that screen, but if someone wants to make a motion,
Yeah.
by all means.
Okay, I move to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, or approval of any new land use application for group camp, vacation lodge, PV park and campground, private resort, guest ranch, special event facility, major entertainment event, indoor or outdoors within unincorporated Lake County.
Does say PV, but it's supposed to be RV.
Sorry, I was wondering about that.
should we include PVs too?
To your point, let's keep it simple.
Okay,
Do I hear a second?
second,
We will do a roll call vote on that one. Chair Lind,
Yes.
Steve Stevens,
yes.
David Urich,
Yes.
and Joey Edwards, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will put, this is on the board's agenda, I believe, for the 3rd, pending approval by the county manager's office and legal. So they do have the draft resolution, and so we'll wait. But we've requested it for the 3rd, and we can let you know when it's been approved for the agenda.
Very good. What else do we have to cover tonight?
I think that is like record time.
It's pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
I don't, do you have anything else for?
I think we'll be doing some study session work with the comp plan when the draft comes out, because it feels really important to get your input on that. Some of you have been at action teams, but many of you have not, so, yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
working this with the comp plan
Yeah,
comes out,
yeah.
but you know where it's headed, at least the comp plan, so
Yeah,
it should be
we
any
do.
big surprises.
We do, and I think that, we're starting to really, be able to identify what those actions are gonna be, and so, that's really kind of helping inform some of the other priorities that we shared with you tonight too. So we're very excited, and hopeful to be adding capacity to the department too. That'll be.
What positions are we currently trying to add in the department?
So
In-house
either one
inspector.
or two, depending on level of experience. So, either someone coming in with a little more planning experience or someone to fill the position similar to Cece. Either would give Melissa and I, incredible,
Yeah,
amount of
Shelby's been invaluable.
support. Yes, Shelby has been in that interim position, helping us, so thank you to her. And then for the first time, having a building professional in the office that we're hoping can start doing maybe plan review, inspection,
Be wonderful.
and absolutely, and supporting and hoping that we can bring them on to also add capacity to our code adoptions. I mean, we've got, a heavy lift really honestly in front of us with codes this year. So we have additional support from the state for OWTS. They'll be helping us with technical expertise. We have Shooms Coda helping us with code adoption again this year. And Shooms has also got a fire expert, fire code expert as well. It is helping Leadville Lake
John
County
was your
Fire
fire
Rescue.
code expert.
So, do I?
I thought John was your fire code expert.
Oh. So we
He
have.
loves fire code.
Yeah, so we have additional supports again, so I don't know if you've met, we have Hope Medina again, who helps with Energy Code. She's exceptional, teaches internationally. Barbara Rice for Fire Code. Cole Cloward took over Steve Thomas's position.
Okay.
So he's doing right now a comparison of the 21 versus the 24 set of codes. So, and those are recorded and online too. So if you'd like to see the slide deck of that code comparison, that's on
Yeah, that would actually,
online.
I'd like to see that.
So we do have quite a bit happening in the next few months. So
Man,
we're
they should
gonna,
just hire Jerry full-time, bring Jerry back. I think he's retired.
What's the motivation, or so the goal is to get out, to stop using Shem's Coda eventually?
yeah, I think that what we'd like to do is, transition someone in. I do think that when we're doing the amount of code review or plan review that we're doing, I don't think one individual can do it all. So I would like to, I think we will have to have some support from Shooms, but we would love to have somebody in the position that could, start doing the majority and then kind of lean away from
It
the
should be
amount
nice,
of
because right now,
services.
they're using two people to do it now, and it's a little confusing, because the person that you talk to and ask questions of is different than the person doing the actual plan review, and sometimes you don't get your questions answered correctly.
Okay,
Or
well,
at
that's
least
good
it
feedback.
continues to be a little bit convoluted, so you're not quite sure that the point that the plan review Mark made is the same thing that John's trying to address.
And
That's
I
difficult sometimes.
I have noted that, and thanks for that feedback. We'll continue to kind of watch that, but it is
They both
nice.
mean well, but
Right,
they're not talking to each other, so.
exactly.
Yeah.
It is probably the best outcome when the person reviewing your plans is the one inspecting your project, right? So that's what we're hoping.
That's best case, can't always
would
happen,
be,
but it sure would be helpful.
What we're doing, and it may be that, we're referring more of those commercial projects. I mean, we obviously do the majority of residential builds locally, but, we may be using Shooms more just for commercial or, overflow. But the hope is that we have, and it's also really, we've identified the benefit of having a county employee who is invested in the community, and this is the only, community that they're working in. That's really nice. Shooms does have, continuing our relationship or engagement with them, I think is equally important over some, they still are code experts and can help us with adoptions. They can help us with different things that come up, certainly, but really hopeful that we can kind of get more of that happening here locally.
It's gonna be a really difficult position to fill.
Do you think?
Do you know how much it's gonna pay?
I do think I've been approved. I know, I believe I've been approved somewhere in the $80,000 annual.
Adding to the difficulties.
Yeah, I know, because it's hard to get somebody
Potentially,
coming.
but it sure, at the same time, then you don't have somebody going from Paucus Springs to Minturn every day.
Yeah,
So
and
they are spread so thin.
the other, I'm hoping that, maybe there's somebody local that's ready to get out of
Retire, semi-retire.
the industry and not, manage the stress and keep all the balls in the air. So an incredibly hard industry, and it's only gotten more and more difficult, so.
Well, and credentials required too, right?
I think for the right person that would come in with some, I think that, we do have budgeted support for training and professional
Additional
development.
certifications.
So we'd be able to help with those ICC certs.
That would help.
And anymore, as you know, both of you know, so many of those can be done, you can test online for those, so.
One last question on tonight's meeting. This motion that we're passing to the BOCC, does that change anything for the existing applications? Does that put anything at all in jeopardy for things that are currently in the works?
Very good question. No, so they are exempt from this. This doesn't apply to them
So their projects can continue to move forward timely and,
under the existing code.
okay, very good, okay.
So no impact to them. We want to make sure that we protect them and keep them moving forward. So
Thank you.
absolutely.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I move to adjourn.
Good. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Andy. What's that?